In the heart of a bustling city, where the cacophony of life reverberated through the streets, a small cafe nestled between two towering buildings offered a refuge from the chaos. It was here, on a particularly rainy afternoon, that a group of friends gathered for their weekly catch-up. They settled into their usual corner booth, the kind that had witnessed countless conversations, laughter, and the occasional argument. Today, however, there was something different in the air, an unspoken challenge that hung between them like a thick fog. Maya, the unofficial leader of the group, had suggested the awkward silence challenge. With a mischievous glint in her eye, she explained the rules. They would take turns sharing their most awkward moments, but they would not be allowed to speak for a full minute after each revelation. The idea was to embrace the discomfort, to sit in the silence and let it linger, allowing the weight of their stories to settle in. The others exchanged skeptical glances, but the promise of vulnerability was too enticing to resist. Maya went first, her voice steady as she recounted the time she accidentally sent a risque text meant for her boyfriend to her grandmother instead. The room erupted in laughter as she described her frantic attempts to explain the mix-up, her grandmother's expression morphing from confusion to sheer horror. But then came the silence. The laughter faded, and they were left with the echoes of Maya's embarrassment hanging in the air. Each tick of the second hand on the wall clock felt like an eternity, the weight of the unspoken words pressing down on them. They shifted in their seats, glancing at one another, their smiles faltering as the silence stretched on. Next was Jake, the self-proclaimed king of awkwardness. He leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips as he began his tale of a disastrous first date. He had been so nervous that he accidentally spilled an entire glass of red wine on his date's white dress. The way he described her mortification, the way he scrambled to help her clean up, had everyone in stitches. But when the laughter subsided, they were left in silence once more. Jake fidgeted, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table, the tension palpable. He glanced at Maya, who was biting her lip to suppress her laughter, and then at Sarah, who was staring at her coffee cup as if it held the answers to the universe. Sarah was next, her cheeks flushed as she began her story. She spoke of the time she tripped on stage during a school play, her face burning with humiliation as she recounted the gasps from the audience. They had all been there, watching her tumble, and she could still feel the sting of their laughter. As she finished her tale, the silence enveloped them once again, a thick blanket that muffled their thoughts. Sarah's eyes darted around the table, searching for comfort in the faces of her friends. It was a silence filled with empathy, but also with the weight of shared memories, the kind that binds friendships together. Then came Liam, the quietest of the group, who had been listening intently, his expression contemplative. He cleared his throat, and the others leaned in, eager to hear what he would share. He spoke softly about the time he accidentally walked into the wrong bathroom at a concert, only to realize he was surrounded by a group of very confused women. The laughter erupted again, but as the silence descended, Liam's gaze fell to the table, a hint of embarrassment creeping into his demeanor. They could see the way he relived the moment, the flush of his cheeks mirroring the memory. As the challenge progressed, the stories became more personal, more revealing. Each friend took a turn, sharing moments of vulnerability that had once felt insurmountable. The awkward silences transformed from uncomfortable pauses into sacred spaces where they could reflect on their experiences. It was as if the challenge had opened a door to a deeper understanding of one another, allowing them to connect in ways they hadn't before. Maya shared a story about her first job interview, how she had prepared for weeks, only to freeze when the interviewer asked her a simple question. The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Jake spoke about his struggles with anxiety, how he had once been paralyzed by fear at a social gathering. The silence that enveloped them after his revelation was filled with a shared sense of support, a reminder that they were not alone in their struggles. As the minutes ticked by, the cafe around them faded into the background. The sound of clinking cups and distant conversations became a mere whisper against the backdrop of their shared stories. The awkward silence challenge had transformed into something deeper, a celebration of their imperfections, a reminder that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. When it was finally Maya's turn again, she felt a shift within herself. The weight of her previous stories had lifted, replaced by a sense of camaraderie that enveloped the group. She took a deep breath, ready to share something that had been weighing on her heart. She spoke of a recent breakup, how she had felt lost and alone in a sea of expectations. The silence that followed was different this time. It was filled with compassion, a collective understanding of heartache. As they sat in that silence, the cafe around them continued its rhythm, unaware of the profound connection forming within the booth. It was a moment of solidarity, a reminder that everyone carries their own burdens, and that sharing those burdens can lighten the load. They exchanged glances, each one a silent promise of support, of friendship that transcended the awkwardness of their stories. Finally, as the clock ticked closer to the hour mark, they decided to end the challenge. The silence had been a gift, a way to honor their vulnerabilities and embrace the awkwardness of life. They erupted into laughter, the tension that had built during the silences dissipating into the air like steam from their mugs. The cafe felt warmer, the world outside less daunting. As they left the cafe, the rain had stopped, leaving behind a glistening pavement that reflected the city's lights. They walked together, their spirits lifted, their bond strengthened by the shared experience. The awkward silence challenge had not only revealed their individual stories, but had woven them together into a tapestry of friendship, one that would carry them through the awkward moments yet to come. In the days that followed, the challenge lingered in their minds. They found themselves reaching out to one another more often, sharing not just their awkward moments, but the deeper truths of their lives. The silences that once felt heavy now felt comfortable, a space where they could be honest and vulnerable without fear of judgment. Maya often thought back to that rainy afternoon, to the way the challenge had transformed their friendship. It had reminded them that everyone experiences awkwardness, and that it is in those moments of discomfort that true connection is forged. They had learned to embrace the silence, to find strength in vulnerability, and to celebrate the messy, imperfect nature of life. As they navigated the ups and downs of their lives, the lessons from the awkward silence challenge stayed with them. They became each other's confidants, cheerleaders, and, at times, a shoulder to cry on. The awkwardness that had once seemed daunting now felt like a badge of honor, a reminder that they were all in this together. And so, in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, they found solace in their friendship, a sanctuary where awkward silences could be embraced and vulnerability celebrated. They learned that the beauty of life lies not in perfection, but in the shared experiences that connect us all, the stories that remind us we are never truly alone.